Hey, good evening, everybody. Yay, you heard me. Otherwise, you wouldn't wave unless you're saying, I can't hear you. It's lovely to see you. Hmm. So, this sounds like a boring subject, but I don't think it is. The subject of community. There's a magic in the word. So, let's start with the non-dual community in us greets the non-dual community in you. The non-dual community. Oi, 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 oi. If there was such a thing in the world, it would be doing a pretty poor job at it. Everybody fighting with everybody with different political points of view, different views on sex and gender, different views on what's going on here, on how we should be active or how we should be passive, or who we should love and who we shouldn't love, how we should be and what we should do as a practice in order to be that which we should be. Because there's something so profound about the word community that it seems to invite division. First of all, it's in the area that we think that we only get one. So we say, this is my community, like there's only one each. And of course, this isn't true. And the moment we check it against experience, we have the community which is here doing Zoom meditations on Wednesday. There's the community watching on YouTube, who maybe think they're not part of the community, but they're looking through the window. But they're part of the YouTube Zoom community. They're part of the meditational field, the community of meditators. Is it difficult to hear me? Oh. Is that better? No, it's still difficult to hear me? What the hell?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, is that better?
Worse.
Okay, hands up if you can hear me.
No, now it's very softly now.
First, it was better.
The first was better.
Yes, when Bart didn't hear you, we can hear you.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Everyone can hear me? Bart not. So I think you've got something with your volume, sweetheart. Sometimes it's like... So anyway, we're on the issue of community. Can everybody hear me? Can the whole damn world community hear me? Because that's where we're going. Yeah. So there's many areas of community. There's the community of our family, the community of our neighborhood, the community of people who share the same points of view or same beliefs as us. The community of people that we just like to hang with for no particular reason. Our friends. The community of all that which is alive on the planet. Because what does community mean? It means being together in unity. And it doesn't mean being together in unity, meaning we're being all the same. It's the unity which flowers through difference, creates a community. So let's take an example. Take an example of a tree. So there's a leaf on a tree, and the leaf on the tree belongs to the community of leaves. And when all the leaves in the whole forest of all the different kinds of trees are falling, she has to fall as well, sooner or later. But she also belongs to the community of the tree that she's in, that she's growing off, that gives her life, which includes the twigs and the branches and the bark and the trunk and the roots. And that wider communities of that kind of trees, so that if somebody sees that leaf, they'll say, this belongs to this tree. Generic, which is in a community of all those kind of trees. belongings within belongings within belongings. So we could say, okay, community is just interconnectedness. It's groups where the interconnectedness of different parts become very, very, very clear that there is a togetherness. But that's not quite it, because within a community, there's an extra spark, there's an extra light. Something flares up. Something in the momentum of unity and togetherness creates a field. It creates an atmosphere. It creates an activation which is bigger than any of the individual parts. There's got something of the miracle in it when the leaf is part of the community of the whole tree. Or the leaf is part of the community of all leaves. Or all vegetable life. That's what it is. Of course, trees are much more than that. They have souls as well, but that's another story. So what's going on with community? Because it's a non-dual quality. It's not a dead thing. It's not a place where we get to, where we're all non-dual and we all look the same and all of this. It's a way of awakening within the manifold. The one source awakening through the manifold different forms, unique forms. But that's not an end point. Oh yeah, look, we're all unique and different and one at the same time. That would be nice if that's it, we're done. But that's not it. That's where the excitement begins. The movement begins. It's where the growth starts to happen, where the realization starts to happen, where the interchange of information starts to happen in a field which is beyond what we can physically see. So when we look towards the human brain, there's a whole community of neurons and different communities of neurons. And what they say about these neurons is that neurons that fire together, wire together. Meaning, if at the same moment that there's a blue sky and a smell of roses in the air, you meet the love of your life, all of these three become bonded in a community. These three factors. When they fire together, they wire together. They share something of a new light, the light which is firing together. Something of that moment of the momentous. And then there is a belonging in that. It's almost like a pathway is created to the light or to a kind of light. In this example, it's the light of love. There's a shared place of experience where experiences interchange and contributing to a wholeness of the whole experience, enriching. So we all know, maybe can recognize how it is when you go to a funeral, and a funeral is a sad thing. The funeral is about loss. And to all intents and purposes, it's supposed to be a miserable thing. But then in the meeting position of different people from an essential dimension to celebrate not only the life of the one that's passed, but also the passing of life and the life which doesn't pass. These existential moments create a kind of community which is existing in another kind of time. These days, there's a fashion of like saying, okay, cancel the funeral, it's lots of money, let's not go. We're there in spirit, we'll work with it spiritually. But physical presence really makes a difference. Community matters. It matters because through body, heart, mind, there is a sharing of this explosion of light. And in that explosion of light, something of community is coming forward in very clear, prelingual way. It's a belonging beyond belonging. It's a moment of the momentous. These are moments which make bullet holes in the fabric of illusion, normal life, where we meet each other behind the veil. And when we meet each other behind the veil, there is instantly a kind of recognition of the one in the other and the miracle of sharing this what the hell is it experience? The experience of the unknown, the experience of the miraculous, the experience of what on earth is going on here. So community is a big deal. It's like it creates networks of light, which are once established, always supporting, meaning at any moment, we can be separated. We can have an I exist retreat, for example. A few months later, we're separated. We're back in each one in our individual lives, in our individual thing. But at any moment, we can just remember the atmosphere of the togetherness, or even just how we felt from the core of ourselves there. And we can maybe ask a question into the field of the stones. And what comes back is information and guidance from the pool of all of the deep knowing and quality which is in everyone. It's there from another kind of dimension, different kind of time. A community is formed, like a sangha. A sangha without formal recognition, but nevertheless alive if we tap into it. It's like plugging into the network of light which was formed in another kind of time. And the information goes through this light. So it doesn't matter if our community of choice, which really resonates with us to the core, is in a place of pursuing justice, or pursuing the victory of a particular football team, or a kind of nationalism, or a kind of sense of human value. Doesn't matter how we're following the golden lights of the lights of community. But when we come there, there is an awakening, something of essence, of quality in us meets the quality in the other, and the other, and the other. Something is shared. You know, we can come, and in that moment of the experience of light, what can happen is there's a shock to the denser areas of the field of experience, the places where we have our identity and our personality, and where we try to hide from certain kinds of suffering or prevent them. And this shock to these areas means that we might try to grasp the light in such a way that we can control it or own it. The light of the community, which is not even of the community, generated by the synergy of community. We try and grasp it, we try and own it, we try and possess it, or we try and hide from it, or we want to control where the light shines, because we should never be exposed by this light in the community. We should never be shamed. It should never shine on the unlovable part of ourselves. So we start to move into fear. Because it's hard. It's hard to stay disintegrating within this light. It creates a kind of crisis of personality or identity, or in the sense of self. And so there can be these moments where there is intense healing processes where fear comes forth. And it can be a healing process if there's a recognition that this is just fear, something is releasing, of where we believe we must be separate or else. Not where we experience ourselves as different, which is amazing. Always. Differentiation is through every leaf and every tree and every flower and every little piece of earth. There's differentiation. Not difference, but separation. Where we believe we must be separate or we are separate. Where we separate from ourselves, where we split within ourselves. And this can create a lot of conflict. So what felt like a community can now begin to look more like a battlefield. And one of the first signs that this is coming forward as a crisis inside ourselves is in this area of a comparison. You find that we start comparing ourselves to others. Well, she's fatter than me. Well, he's got a big ass. You know, I'm the ugliest one here. But I'm smarter than any of them. I might be the oldest, but I've got the youngest spirit. We start to compare and we start to measure. And, you know, she might look very beautiful, but did you smell her? She's got the worst smell. Or even worse, when it comes to spiritual community, there's something about her essence which doesn't feel quite right. So this game begins in community of different kinds of projections. And what's a projection? Why would we need to split like that? By comparing ourselves to another. So one of the first things that we meet is this place where we suddenly found ourselves awake in consciousness, and then we became strange to ourselves. So for a moment there, before we'd built ourselves up as a thing that can be compared, we had a shock of awakening and we were alienated. Who the hell am I? Like, I'm dancing in the community and it's all wonderful and we're all doing ecstatic dancing and there's this great field of light above us and the bliss is running through everybody, and then somebody stands on our toe and it's a guy that looks at us like we made a mistake, and boom, a moment of alienation. And we being immediately, what comes forward is a split from ourselves, because what comes forward is a form where I am a shit dancer. I'm a bad dancer. But I'm not as bad as him because he stood on my toe. And what kind of a person is him? He's got to be the biggest narcissist in the room. And it begins this whole comparison thing. And with the comparison thing starts the collusion thing. And collusion means we conspire together to try and get allies. So we sneak over to somebody else in the community, and now we're forming a sub-community. And we say, right, that he's got really big feet. He doesn't know what he's doing with them. Did you know he stood on my toe? You know, and then he, typical male. You see how many other communities are coming to the rescue here. And we suffer in this. And sometimes when the light is very bright, it can feel almost like soul murder. And the more we protest and the more we compare and we say, I'm not this and I'm not that, and I'm the best and I'm the worst, and I am more and I am less, and they are this and they are that, the more we get ourselves feeling unanchored and lost in kind of like hungry ghost land. And on the one hand, we're looking for community to make everybody agree, to make it safe for ourselves. And the biggest accusation towards a facilitator in such a case is, you're not making it safe for me. On the other hand, we never felt so isolated from that light which it's all about. So one of the pathways which is so useful, and it's a little bit counterintuitive, but which is so useful in working with the quality of community, is to recognize that when we go into comparison in a way which doesn't feel beneficial to our own feeling of well-being, to realize that something inside ourselves is fragmented at that moment. Something inside ourselves is in a split because something feels unsafe. We've split from the naturalness of the dance and we started to judge ourselves. We started to dissociate and to see ourselves from a distance and to judge how good it is in relation to the other. We start to not automatically just allow form to move through us. We're now controlling it and measuring it. It's almost like there is a threat behind it. There's a place where we split from ourselves. And in this, one of the first places to go to as a resource is the physical body. Because while we might split from ourselves and say, oh, look at me, I'm the greatest and the best, or I'm the worst and the most useless, as if there's two of us, the body doesn't divide itself in half. Doesn't kind of, breed another version of itself, a twin, even though on AI they do that, and start battling against itself and eyeing itself up. The body just is what it is in the suchness, in the togetherness, in the field with the light and with the other and with the party which is there. The celebration of life, which is community and naturalness. The body has whole communities of cells. It's got a community of skin cells. And the community of skin cells are not saying, you know, we are separate from the community of liver cells. They are the outsiders. That's enemy territory over there in the liver. And the liver cells are not bunkering down and digging tunnels and saying, oh, you know, we will never, ever, ever forgive the cells in the rectum. They don't belong. They're not part of our community. The brain cells might think they're absolutely above everybody else, but when it comes down to it, without all the other, the community of communities of all the cells in the bodies, they don't come anywhere. They starve and die. So the body is an excellent example of community in which there's a constant, unfiltered communication and compassion. An automatic union given without any fight, without any need to protest, in which the togetherness of the whole is actually a conversation which is ongoing. How does it feel to be a finger? I don't know, I'm a toe. Let your hand exchange information with your foot. Let your right foot notice there's also a left foot. There's such a naturalness, and not for a moment is there this othering, this saying you are other than I. The right foot comparing itself to the left foot. The hands going into a conspiracy against the elbows. It's not needed. So often we form community in naturalness. And then at a certain moment, somebody with a very strong fear or a strong wound or a strong split inside themselves begins to start to dictate the agenda of the community because of their inner split, a place where they're not free, where they lose the sense of wholeness within themselves. And then they begin to demand that everyone conforms to their agenda. We support this, we don't support that. We love these ones, we don't love these ones. Start dictating what we feel, how we should behave, how we should move, when we should act, when we should switch agenda. And out of this spirit of community, often there's a moving with that, but then everything goes a little bit toxic. Because no amount of the quality of community can satisfy the split which is within the individual. And what can be done, what we can do in such a situation as a community member or a member of a Sangha, is relate back to it, relate back to that place from the depth of our own sweethearts, the depth of our own true nature, and look at this field of community. Not the individuals, not the threats, not the danger, not the fear, not the coercion, not the comparison. We look to the whole blend of everyone in this field, past, present, and future. So let's say it's the non-dual community. We go to the atmosphere of the whole non-dual community. Or the community of mystics, the community of people who really have realized something of the oneness of all life. And in going to that atmosphere, we can ask, what is it that we're needing from that atmosphere? What is it that we're waiting to hear from that atmosphere? If the atmosphere could speak to us, what is it we'd want it to say? What is this atmosphere of the humans who have realized the oneness of all life at this moment in time? What is it asking from you? And what are you waiting to hear from it? We're starting a conversation. And maybe when we look deeply into our own longing and our own need, what comes forward is something like, I'm wanting to hear that this community will tell me, this audience, this community, this atmosphere will tell me, you belong here. It's okay for you to be yourself. For example, Your love is welcome. It's okay to be alive. It can be quite precise. I'm not filling it. I'm not saying what it must be. There's many, many, many possibilities of what we're longing to hear from the community as a feedback towards us. What we're waiting for. From the depth of ourselves, from the timeless place inside ourselves, what we're waiting to hear from the community, from our big family, or any one of them. It doesn't matter which one. All these points of consciousness, this field of blended consciousness, what are we waiting to hear? When we've identified those words which we're waiting to hear, there's this amazing movement which is possible where we connect very, very deeply with our own hearts and the power of our own hearts, because there's a lot of power available to true nature. And we repeat exactly those same words, we give it back to the community. So for example, if we're waiting for the community to tell us that we are loved, that our love is welcome, we turn around and we connect to the strength of our hearts and we give those words back into the field of the community. Your love is welcome. You are loved and your love is welcome. And in this way, what can happen is that where there was a depletion and the sense of community was being born of lack and need and self-service, like what can I get out of it? What is it giving me? How it should meet my needs, how it should take away my pain, how it should satisfy my agenda to get rid of this suffering or that suffering or the other suffering. We take all of that place of hungriness and despair and we turn it around, and we're coming from a place of power, knowing that the whole of the true nature of the whole universe is available through us, and we share it back into the community. Exactly that which was lacking. In this, we begin to empower the essence of this non-dual quality of community with all the other non-dual qualities as well. We begin to set up a living resource, which at other moments when maybe we don't even need it, it comes back to us like an echo from that same field, which is now full. And of course, when one individual begins sharing like this, not asking what true nature can do for them, but what they can do for true nature. When one starts doing this, it's such a delight for that one, and it sets up a particular quality vibration, quality expression. Something of the individual essence is being shared, which is amazing. So everybody wants that. So now comparison is working in favor and not against. It's not contracting and saying more or less or better or worse. It's saying, I too can do this. I too can love. I too can party. I too can affirm the other. I too feel gratitude. The need to divide, to separate, to isolate in the name of unity falls away like a very bad idea. Like, where did we get that idea that in order to find unity, we need to separate? Where did we get that idea if not from our woundedness, from the sense of danger, the sense of non-safety taking over the whole of our experience, even in those places which should be natural, supportive, which can be natural, supportive, in which we're built to belong indigenously, inherently, as a given. And if we can't see this but communal aspect of our being here through the field of humans, we can find it through the field of nature, through the field of all the beings that move through nature, all the life which expresses through nature, all of the movements of which we hardly understand, the movements of light, the movements of the earth, the resonance of the wind, the messages, the unspoken messages carried on the wind through the planet, through the breath of so many other forms of life. You know, walking in the fields and we are inhaling the out-breath of a badger that just nursed her puppies. You know, there is a circulation happening where life is always in community with life. a sharing and a receiving. So as usual, we are challenged and invited to open up to a deeper dimension, to this community which is always here. Even the community of stars, of galaxies, of Milky Ways, of the elements. The community which is always here, which can never be taken away, which is one and undivided, which is part of our consciousness, meaning wherever we are conscious, we are in community. And wherever we are conscious, we can move very easily into communion because it's already there. And then that spark of light where one looks into the eyes of the other and looks back, the other looks back again, and there is a sharing of a moment of being here in freedom. That spark of light begins to expand as a general field of community. Not a community tortured by social fear, but a community coming to life in such a way that the individual begins to shine as an expression of the unity of the whole. Okay, we take a break, 5 minutes, and then we'll have a new kind of community meditation.
So welcome back, everybody. Can you hear me? Ah, great. I have earphones in because I cannot hear you. But when I'm giving the guided meditation, I don't need the earphones. I'm only listening to myself. Ah, such a relief. So if you could find a relaxed position, so we can kind of move into the community of the guided meditation. And if you found a relaxed position, I'd like you to bring your attention to your physical body. And if you could just follow your breathing in and out for some time, and the movements in the physical body connected with your breathing, just follow it. And then you can bring your attention to where your body is supported by the chair, the couch, the mattress, maybe the floor. And at the same time that we bring our attention there, we also are just following our breathing in and out. With every out breath, we allow ourselves to relax or to sink a little bit more deeper into the support of the chair, the couch, the mattress, or the floor. And then I'd like you to visualize a tree or a plant. Maybe it's possible to sense, to feel the feeling of community inside the plant or the tree. And I'd like you to kind of connect with yourself and see if you can get a connection with the feeling, the experience of community inside yourself. And then I'd like you to kind of reach out again to the plant or the tree and connect with this quality of community inside the tree or the plant. And just kind of feel how the plant or the tree is connected. in its community. And then I'd like you to move back to the sense of community inside yourself again. And just try to experience how this sense of community is connected. And then I'd like you to move back to the plant again, or the tree. And feel the sense of community, the plant. And how this sense of community is connected. And I'd like you to kind of move back to the sense of community inside yourself. And how the sense of community is connected with your community. And then I'd like you to connect with the earth below you. And maybe it's possible to connect with the sense of community in the earth. And how the earth is connected. And then I'd like you to move back to yourself and the sense of community inside yourself. It is expressed. And then I'd like you to move back to the sense of community in the earth. And how the sense of community is expressed through the earth. And then I'd like you to move back to the sense of community inside yourself. and how it is expressed through yourself. And then maybe it's possible to feel the sense of community in the earth, and the sense of community inside yourself at the same time. Maybe it's possible to let them blend. To let them become as one. And then I'd like you to connect with the sense of communion in the universe. The sense of community in the universe. And how everything is in communion with each other. And then I'd like you to move back to the sense of communion inside yourself, the sense of community inside yourself. And how you are in communion with everything. Then I'd like you to move back to the sense of communion in the universe, the sense of community in the universe. And how everything is in communion with everything. And then I'd like you to feel the sense of community inside yourself and the sense of community in the universe at the same time as one. Okay. It's time to say goodbye to the people on the live stream. And we enjoyed you being there and hope to feel you next week again and have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we take 5 minutes break, and after 5 minutes there will be the peace meditation and of course some time for questions and sharing. I'll see you in 5 minutes.